Hi, everyone. This is Miranda with the Valuable Voices podcast. I have Miranda Kossoff with me today. I'm super excited for you guys to meet her. I met her in a Facebook podcast group, and I'm just loving meeting new people. She's an author. She's got a great story. So thank you, Miranda, for being on today.
It's my pleasure. I'm delighted to be here.
Yay. Well, let's dive right in. Again, I know you have a book, but wherever you want to start with your story, I love to just kind of hear where you were and where you got to, how you got to where you are today.
Wow, that's a long journey. Given my age, I guess I'd have to say that this memoir I've written had been sitting inside me for 20 years. I started writing it after my mother's death in 2000, and then family pushback put the lid on me for a while, for 20 years. And it got to the point where I had this insistent voice saying, you've got to write this. You know, I've learned through hard experience to listen to my gut and to listen to that inner voice. And so I thought, well, I'll just tell my siblings I'm doing this. And, you know, it's not about you. It's about me. I have to mention you because you're a part of the story, but I won't put you in any scenes or give you dialogue or anything like that.
Okay.
They weren't happy about it, but they realized that it's what I'm going to do. So
good for you for just going after it.
Well, it was almost to the point where it was either write the book or die. I mean, that sounds dramatic, but I was really depressed at the time and I needed to get the story out. And I needed to pull all the threads together from childhood. And it really was cathartic. It helped me understand better who I am and why I've done the things I've done, and good and bad. And so the book helped me draw a whole new perspective on my life and my growing up.
Wow. Yeah. So it's called The Rope of Life. So tell us kind of a quick synopsis of it and how you picked that title.
Well, the title comes from the Jewish prayer for the dead.
Okay.
They will bind his wings with the rope of life, or something to that effect. And it's at the very end of the book. My father was Jewish, World War II veteran, the Army Air Corps, one of the most dangerous parts of the military to be in during World War II. My mother was a Southern Baptist, and Southern Baptist. My father was from New York, and they were a very unlikely match. She was almost 10 years older than he.
Okay.
But long story short, they married. They proceeded to have 4 children. My father converted before they married. And he went to UNC undergraduate and University of Maryland dental school, all on the GI Bill.
Wow.
And I was on the scene. I had been born when my father was a student. And so the book is about my relationship with my father, his ability to foresee the future and make investments and do things that we all thought, well, that's crazy, but they always worked out.
Wow.
He was a beloved as a dentist, but there was anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't allowed to practice in North Carolina, where he took the boards. They flunked him on purpose, saying they didn't want another Jew practicing in North Carolina. So that's how we ended up in Danville, Virginia, which is a border town with North Carolina. And so the book is about my relationship with him, about his struggles with his own identity. And I never realized that until I pulled things together with this book, about our relationship, about him, about his accomplishments, about his eventually his decline into depression and eventually suicide, and how that affected the family and me personally. Also, there's quite a bit about racism and anti-Semitism in the town where I grew up.
Okay.
Danville was one of the foci of the civil rights movements, even though most people haven't heard of it. They think of Greensboro or Birmingham, but
Right.
Danville made the national news.
Okay.
Danville also tried to cover it up. So the book has some of that folded in as well.
Wow.
And ultimately, it's a book about being marginalized, about feeling like an outsider.
Sure.
Because of my mixed heritage.
How old were you when he committed suicide?
I was 31,
Okay.
and I had by that time had 18-month-old twin sons.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure that can absolutely make you want to question, right? Ask a lot of questions and maybe not get answers. So where did you go from there? How was that journey?
Very painful. I was very depressed after my father's suicide, and yet I had to suck it up, be a mother to my sons. I had a job, I had a husband, and I couldn't afford to lie in my bed and cry all day.
Sure.
I just wasn't, and I'm used to soldiering on, just get on with it. I went into therapy.
Okay.
And that may have been the first time, which was psychotherapy, which is extremely helpful.
Sure.
In helping me sort out some things. Though actually, I've been in therapy a lot of my adult life, but it wasn't until I wrote this book that I figured out some things that I never figured out in therapy. So,
wow. I can imagine it would be very therapeutic to write a book, kind of just gathering all your thoughts about the history of your life. And like you said, why you did this, why he did that, and just kind of almost studying or researching, right? I mean, some of us, I feel like, just keep going. Like you said, just keep soldiering through life. We don't stop and feel or question or wonder. I think we need to do that, right? We have a traumatic event like that, and sometimes it makes you.
yes, it either makes you or breaks you.
So I could see why you would have this, like, I have to write this book, probably to help figure out, a lot of why things are the way they are.
Yes, yes. And to figure out myself.
Yeah.
Somebody
could write a book. Somebody could write a book or, write their thoughts down or a journal, but, why publish it?
Well, that's a good question. And I think the driving force for me wanting to publish it was to help other people who've been through suicide in their families, and also shine a light on the kind of racism and anti-Semitism that I saw growing up. And I was very sensitive to it. I mean, I didn't directly suffer. There were just a few indirect things because Southerners always want to be polite. But, I could read the tea leaves. And so I felt like this book would be helpful to other people. And the feedback I've gotten is exactly that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And a lot of people have said, I really saw myself in your story, and it really helped me. And that's the best reaction I could get.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes when we're going through something like that, I feel like we could feel alone, right? And feel like this hasn't happened to anybody else. Nobody else understands. So I would imagine that support and that knowing that, hey, you're not the only one that's gone through this, and maybe helping, how you dealt with it, I'm sure would help other people. That's great. Did you do any support groups, or do you do anything like that?
Around the issues in the book?
Yeah.
And no, I'm actually working on another book.
Awesome. Something similar? Do you want to share or no? Something similar? Or?
Well, it's it's another memoir, but it deals with my chameleon-like work life, how I was able to reinvent myself several times. And there was a drama, quite a bit of drama in some of my jobs. And one of them was that I was communications manager for Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority. And I just had the job for 6 weeks when 9/11 happened.
Wow.
And I was a spokesperson. So I was on TV all the time, followed by reporters. I had to give a press conference that morning without having had any time to prepare, because I was just putting out fires everywhere with our website and people calling in. And that proved my mettle.
Wow.
And I rose to the occasion, to the challenge. But if you'd asked me before, this is going to happen and you're going to have to do this, I would say, oh my God, no.
Wow.
No way I'm going to be able to make my way through this. But I did.
Yeah.
And it made me stronger.
Absolutely.
So I think there will be a lot in the book that will help young women coming out into the workforce. Of course, today's job market and workforce is much different than in my day.
Sure.
The 70s, the 80s, the 90s. But there are a lot of things that are still similar. And women still face a battle in the workplace to be treated as equals, to be given work that is up to their abilities, that they can work up to their abilities and be able to move further.
Right. Wow, that's an amazing story. That's super inspiring. I think a lot of us could say that about anything, right? Even being a mom. I mean, you said you're a mom of twins. I can't imagine that, right? Sometimes it's like, okay, here we go, ready or not. You got to do this.
No going back now.
Yeah, right. Can't put it back inside. So yeah, I think that's just a great, again, sometimes we're not prepared for what's right in front of us. Like you said, if somebody would have said, tomorrow morning, you have to do this, you probably would be like, no, thank you. But sometimes we don't have that choice, right? And we just have to push through. So that is super inspiring. That sounds like a great, great motivational book. That sounds amazing. So good for you. So I know you have a website. Tell us where people can find you and where people can find your book.
Well, thank you for asking. My website is simply myname.com.
Okay.
And it's mirindakossoff.com. Be sure to get the spelling right. Yeah. Don't put an A in there in Mirinda, because
right.
You won't get there.
Yeah.
And my book's title is The Rope of Life, a memoir. It can be ordered from any bookstore anywhere, and it also can be purchased on Amazon. It's available in audiobook, Kindle download, and paperback.
Awesome. Tell me just about that too, because I'm sure there's people listening that are like, I want to write a book. I feel like a lot of us have something inside of us. So take me through that journey quickly too. Just like, hey, I want to write this book. I got to write this book, and then to publish it. Like that's an amazing accomplishment. So congratulations to you for being an author, but like kind of take me through that journey.
Well, thank you. That was another thing where, I have a couple of friends who are authors.
Yeah.
And I always thought, man, I could never write a book. I've been a writer my whole life. Okay. In most of my jobs, I've had to write. And even though I wasn't writing a book about my father, I wrote a number of essays and things that were published. I wrote a few articles for national magazines.
Okay.
Published in a couple of newspapers. So I've been a writer all my life, but the idea of writing a whole book instead of a 5,000 word essay,
right.
Was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what kept me going was there was this inner drive to get this story out.
Yeah.
And then I joined a writers group comprising 2 or 3 published authors and led by Nancy Peacock, who's written 3 novels and a memoir, and she was very good. So the motivation was every Monday I could read 10 pages and get feedback. So it's kind of like, wow, I might wait till Friday, but I've got to have stuff to read to my group. And they didn't pull any punches with the feedback, which was great.
Yeah.
It was never mean or discouraging, but it was really helpful.
That's wonderful. I love that. I love just, again, getting a support system or a coach and helping you, somebody that's already done it, right? So that's a great place to start.
Right. And I read a lot of books about memoir and looked at how you structure a book. You know, do you want it to be flashbacks, or do you want it to be chronological?
Sure.
And I chose chronological.
Okay. That makes sense. Perfect. So what's next for you? I know you're doing podcasts, but again, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? What's next for you now that you have accomplished this goal? And I guess you have another book coming, but besides that, anything else?
Well, that's pretty big, getting this next book done.
Yeah.
And I have a blog, so I write once a month on that. I have 2 wonderful grandchildren.
Wow.
One of whom, my 10-year-old Clara, is extremely gifted in art.
Wow.
So she and I did an abstract piece together, and it's beautiful.
Wow.
All my artist friends, I also have done metalsmithing, and as a jewelry designer, I was juried into a local gallery for my jewelry.
Wow.
But I also did mixed media painting and collage, and had also been in another gallery with that.
Awesome.
And so I've had quite a bit of experience with making art, and I was astounded by my granddaughter's natural ability to blend colors and to have a vision of where we wanted this piece to go, because she was new to abstract. She was interested in pursuing it.
Wow.
So my idea is that she and I will continue working together, and that maybe, you know, if the work turns out as good as this first project did, that we'll have a granddaughter show.
Wow.
So I'm really looking forward to that, because I get to spend more time with her.
Yeah.
And she says it's her happy place when she's at an easel with her paints and her paintbrush.
Wow. I got goosebumps all over when you said that. So that's beautiful. I love everything about that. Again, just, you have a lot of gifts, right? And you're kind of giving your grandchild something like that. You're giving to the world. You're writing through your books. It's just beautiful. So congratulations on all your success. And thank you for being on. Everyone check her out, mirandakossoff.com, and check out her book. I'd love to hear what you think, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. So thank you so much. I know we'll stay in touch, and just God bless you.
You too, Miranda. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.